Welcome to According to Sam, folks. This is episode 230. Thank you for tuning in. Hope you guys have had a great week. Today we're going to talk about the Trump attempted assassination that happened last weekend. It's been 6 days. It'll be a week tomorrow since the attempt on Donald Trump's life. In the podcast I did on Monday, I said that I didn't want to go into it. I wanted to wait for more information to come out. And there's still a lot of questions. There's still a lot of information that needs to come out. But Joe Biden said when he gave his address last weekend after this assassination attempt, wait for the FBI to do their investigation. Don't jump to any conclusions and don't speculate about the motive. Well, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to wait for the FBI. There's some serious questions that need to be answered about this assassination attempt. And I'm going to get into a little bit of it today. The Director of Secret Service, Kimberly, what's her last name? Kimberly Cheadle, is supposed to appear before the Oversight Committee on Monday. So that's going to be great. Probably won't cover that until Friday of next week and what we learn, but that should be a really good first really public questioning of her role, the Secret Service's role, and how they could let this happen. So if you don't know how close Donald Trump came to losing his life on last Saturday, this is a clip that's been going around that shows Donald Trump's sudden movement that saved his life. This sudden movement that he makes, he talked about it last night in his speech, that at the same moment that he's making a gesture to the Jumbotron, and this is the graph that he had on the Jumbotron, which shows illegal immigration down significantly in his last year in office, and then shooting up during the Biden administration. Now, this is a very significant graph, very significant graph, but I don't want to talk about this graph. I wish that we could just be talking about policy issues and issues like this, and this whole podcast could be about this graph, because I could do an hour podcast about this graph. But Donald Trump's making a gesture towards this graph, and that's what saved his life, people. It was absolutely an act of God, and Donald Trump is only here, like he said last night, by the mercy of God. The atheists have been attacking that point of view and say, well, why didn't God save Corey, the firefighter who lost his life? Why didn't God save him? And even Franklin Graham made reference to it last night in the RNC. He says, well, I can't answer the question about why God would spare one man and save another. Well, I can. And it all has to do with God's purpose. People quote the scripture all the time that all things work together for good for those who love God and who are called according to his purpose. That all things are made by God, for God, and for his purpose. Now, the heathens, the atheists, they don't live a life of purpose. Their only purpose is pleasure and hedonism. So they don't understand that God most likely did spare Donald Trump's life for his purpose. And as someone who has had a near-death experience, I can tell you that that belief that God spared your life for a purpose it is a powerful motivator to live a life of purpose. So I'll just say that. So yes, I believe absolutely without a doubt that God spared his life. Look how close this is. There's this computer generation that's going around that also shows how close it was. Take a look.
Take a look what happened.
Look how close that is. So this was a security failure, a security breakdown, and it is so much of a security breakdown that it leads the thinking person to believe that there's only one way that you can have all of these security breakdowns, is that these security breakdowns are purposeful. So I made a relationship to Daley Plaza in the last podcast, and how much the scene there where the assassination attempt on Trump reminded me of Daley Plaza. Like, if you look at this is Daley Plaza right here. It's a turkey shoot, people. That's what they refer to it as a turkey. I mean, you can have guns anywhere. This is the book depository where they tell us Lee Harvey Oswald fired the fatal shots. But look at all these positions that you could have shooters. You could have shooters here. You could have shooters here. Shooters here. You could have shooters in this building. Shooters in this building. You could have snipers in these trees. This is the manhole. You could have someone in that manhole. You could have someone back here behind the grassy knoll. I mean, you can have, this is a turkey shoot. This is the scene of where Trump was shot. This part right here is where Trump was speaking. Look at this. This is a turkey shoot, people. This line coming from the water tower, because there's a theory out there that there may have been a shooter on the water tower. I don't have time to go into that. I don't have any of that stuff prepped, but there are people that are saying that there could have been there. And we are going to get into a little bit of the second shooter theory, because there are people that are saying that there was a second shooter. This was a complete security breakdown. Complete security breakdown.
When your brain goes numb, you can call a mental freeze. When these people talk too much, put that shit in slow motion.
I don't want the music in here because I don't want them to be banning this off of YouTube. Hold on. I'm going to turn the music off. What's going on here? I keep editing this or muting this. I guess it won't let me mute it and expand it. So let's see here. Let's do this. All right, look at this. This is where the roof where they tell us that the one shooter, the lone shooter who they killed, 150 yards. This roof was unsecure. This is insane. Look at this. It's a turkey shoot. This is a turkey shoot, people, just like Daley Plaza. Just like Daley Plaza. So let's talk a little bit more about the Kennedy assassination a little bit before we get into this. And I want to introduce you people who don't know who James Tague is. But James Tague became a very important person in the Kennedy assassination. He was a bystander. He wasn't even there. at Daley Plaza that day to see the president of the United States. And this guy, James Tague, became a very important witness and a very important person in the Kennedy assassination. James Thomas Tague was a car salesman who received minor injuries during the assassination of U.S. President John F. Kennedy in Dallas on November 22nd, 1963. And then I have a little video here that tells Tague's story. Let's take a listen.
The President and First Lady.
When President Kennedy arrives in Dallas on November 22nd, 1963,
The crowd is absolutely going wild.
an estimated 200,000 Texans turn out to greet him.
And it dawned on me, I'd read in the paper that the president was going to be in town.
What a tremendous welcome he's getting now.
While throngs of spectators try shaking a hand or catching a
Look,
glimpse
I want
of
you
the
to
first
notice
couple,
this real quick. I want you to notice how this is Kennedy's limo.
Now,
While throngs of spectators try
You can see how you have secret on the limousine that's behind him, or the car behind him that's following the limousine with the governor and the president in it. You have these Secret Service agents that are riding on the side of the car behind the limousine, but they should be. I'm going to show you how they should be riding. Like they're riding on the back of this car. They should be riding on the back of the limousine as well to shield the president. That doesn't happen.
try shaking a hand or catching a glimpse of the first couple, history is waiting for an unsuspecting person along the route.
He was coming directly towards me.
One man who has no interest in seeing JFK.
The only thing I can say that made my life interesting.
James Tague is running late for a lunch date with his girlfriend. The 27-year-old finds himself stuck in gridlock traffic.
And so I got out of my car, see what was going on, walked into the open of Dealey Plaza.
James decides to wait on the side of the road.
Yeah, that's me standing right there.
this is a friendly crowd in downtown Dallas.
About that time, here comes this car with flags on the front fenders.
Just then, James would hear what sounds like fireworks.
Then the crack of two rifle shots. And I felt something sting me in the face.
A piece of concrete or bullet fragment fired from an assassin's rifle slams into James's right cheek.
Put me on, Phil.
A police officer notices James's injury.
I reached up, and sure enough, there was blood. I remember being stunned.
Officers order James to fill out a report at the police station. James then notices a person in handcuffs.
And the detective says, "Who you got there?" He says, "Well, this is the man that killed a policeman over at Oak Cliff."
No, I've not been charged with that.
Turns out that suspect would be Lee Harvey Oswald.
All right, so James Tague is nicked in the face with a piece of concrete, and this became a big deal in the Kennedy assassination because they had to account for every single bullet. They told us that Oswald shot 4 bullets, and he could only shoot 4 bullets. He was using a bolt action rifle. There's a lot of marksmen who have questioned over the last 60 years if he could have even gotten off the 4 shots that he got off. But supposedly they tell us that Oswald got off 4 shots, and 3 of the shots hit the limousine, and one of the shots went way over here. 3 of the shots, he fired 4 shots, and 3 of the shots hit the target, hit the limousine, and then just 1 stray shot went way over here where James Tague was, hits the concrete busts up in his face, and then hits his face. But this became a really big deal because they had to account for every single shot so they could only have 1 shooter. This guy explains, but this is where we get the single bullet theory, Arlen Specter's single bullet theory, or magic bullet. Because you would have to believe in magic if you believe that the bullet did what Arlen Specter told people that this bullet did. But the reason they had to create this narrative is because of this stray bullet that hit this concrete, bounced up, the concrete bounces up and hits James Tague's face, and they had to create the single bullet theory. Listen to this guy explains a little bit.
The Warren Commission put itself in a straitjacket. They could not possibly allow more than 3 shots because 4 shots or more would have clearly indicated conspiracy. And
4 shots. I'm sorry. So, three. They say that Oswald only shot 3 shots, and then they had to account for the third shot, or the second shot, hitting both Kennedy and Governor Connelly. So that's what he's saying here.
Jacket. They could not possibly allow more than 3 shots because 4 shots or more would have clearly indicated conspiracy, and they were not going there.
Why would it have indicated a conspiracy if there was 4 shots? Because if there was a second shooter, that means that there was a second person. And the definition of conspiracy is 2 or more people. Just 2 or more people that are plotting for a nefarious plot, whatever it is. We know, and that's the thing. So the whole term conspiracy theorists and conspiracy theory that they use to discredit people that started asking questions about the Kennedy assassination. This is where the term conspiracy theorist came from. So if there was a 4th shot, that meant that there was a second shooter and there was a conspiracy. And so the whole narrative over the last 60 years is that if you believe there was a second shooter, if there was any more shooters than Oswald, then you believe in conspiracy theory. They say the same thing about 9/11, by the way. And we know for a fact that 9/11 was a conspiracy. Even if you believe the ridiculous official story, it was a conspiracy because there was 20 Saudi individuals who conspired to hijack planes, fly them into buildings. And we know for a fact it was a conspiracy because it was 20 individuals. Now, do we know that if there was any more than those 20 individuals? No. But we do know that there was a conspiracy with 9/11 because there was 20 individuals. So with the Kennedy assassination, they want you to believe that it was only Lee Harvey Oswald. 1 individual does not make a conspiracy. You need 2. All right. So that was the dilemma that they came up with after James Tague came forward and he was wounded in his face. They had to account for all of the bullets.
In a straitjacket. They could not possibly allow more than 3 shots because 4 shots or more would have clearly indicated conspiracy, and they were not going there.
I was standing down under the underpass. On the curb, there was a very visible mark where a bullet had struck. A fragment of the bullet scratched my face.
Records show the first shot had missed its target completely, and the final shot hit Kennedy in the head. So how does one account for 1 bullet hitting 2 victims and doing all this damage?
All right, so that's a good question. How do you account for 1 bullet doing what Arlen Specter told us this bullet did? Look at the turn. It's coming from here. So these are the 3 shots. This shot goes way off base. I mean, how does Oswald, shoot way off base here and then correct himself in this matter of time? This was a turkey shoot, even if he did do this. But look at what they show you that the bullet did. It's Kennedy here, makes this turn, and then goes into Connelly. Oliver Stone did a great job in his movie, showing this with Kevin Costner back in the 90s. I want you to take a little look at this. You can see, watch the driver of the limousine, the Secret Service driver here. So Kennedy's already shot here. He's already shot with the second shot that they tell us, and he's grabbing his throat. He hasn't been shot fatally yet. He's still alive, and he is holding his throat. You can see his wife leaning over, trying to figure out what's happening. I want you to notice the Secret Service officer that's driving the limo. He not only slows the limo down, he's looking back, he's waiting for the final fatal shot, and then after the fatal shot, he turns around and hits the gas. Watch this. It's absolutely ridiculous what they want you to believe, but it's also scientifically impossible and it is the official story. Take a listen.
The analysis that we've gone through so far is that those can't be the same bullet.
I can't believe that scientists had to do a analysis to tell them that story was ridiculous. But people actually did scientific research to come to the conclusion that all that stuff you just saw Kevin Costner say about the single bullet is ridiculous. They needed science to tell them that.
They don't align. We can't make Governor Connelly's position match.
Stanley Stoll is CEO of Knott Laboratory, a forensic engineering and animation lab who was hired by a former Justice Department attorney to re-examine the single bullet theory. They took laser scanners to Dealey Plaza, then brought it back to their computers. And the data they collected from the lasers are tiny points, millions of them, to make a point cloud.
It's a digital twin. It's bringing the field to your computer, the exact replica of whatever you wanted to scan. Everything used to be two-dimensional, and what you saw on camera may or may not be accurate. Now you can truly analyze it.
They then took the infamous Zapruder film that has the clearest video of when John F. Kennedy was shot and matched it to their point cloud. And everything was matching up perfectly until the Texas governor was shot too, reportedly by the bullet that went through the president first.
What, through the evaluation, comes to show is that those aren't in line. Governor Connelly his wound is sitting, 6 to 10 inches towards the outside of the vehicle. You have to slide Governor Connelly to the inside of the vehicle. You have to slide him to the left to get that alignment.
Based on those findings, Stoll says you have to look at a new hypothesis that there was a second bullet.
You have to.
The question, from where?
You have to. You have to look at the hypothesis. You at least have to look at the hypothesis. You have to at least investigate the fact, which they refused to do because it was a cover-up, because Oswald was not the shooter. There was tons of shooters, people. There was tons of shooters. It was a turkey shoot. Where's my picture? It's a turkey shoot. There were other shooters, people. That's why. That's why it was a cover-up. Now, so what are we learning now over the last 6 days about what took place at the turkey shoot that they set up for Donald Trump? What are we learning about this? Well, take a listen to this clip. We're going to get into it.
We continue here with the news tonight. There are fast-moving developments after the assassination attempt tonight. Remarkable new images here. The alleged gunman seen climbing to the roof just minutes before opening fire at that rally.
Wow.
You can actually hear people in the crowd yelling to an officer, pointing him out.
They knew.
And now we learn
they
that
knew.
law enforcement.
They knew about this guy an hour before Trump took the stage. They see him with a rangefinder. I mean, this is ridiculous, people.
Was actually using that building as a staging area.
And
how the gunman climbed onto the roof.
So the FBI was in the building.
Attempt tonight. Remarkable new images here. The alleged gunman seen climbing to the roof just minutes before opening fire at that rally. You can actually hear people in the crowd yelling to an officer, pointing him out. And now we learn that law enforcement was actually using that building as a staging area, and how the gunman climbed onto the roof, the wall outside that building. And ABC's Pierre Thomas tonight with the exclusive interview with the head of the Secret Service and what she's saying now.
Stunning new video tonight showing the moment Donald Trump's would-be assassin
Look at this, people.
climbed onto the roof of that building just 2 minutes before he opened fire.
So I don't want to. We're going to get into Cheadle, and they in that clip they go into an interview with Cheadle. We'll talk about her in just a minute. We're going to look at this Wall Street Journal piece that they put out about the security failures real quick before we start talking about Cheadle.
Here's what we know about the security gaps that led to the assassination attempt on Trump.
Yeah, look, there he is.
In a video taken by a bystander shortly before the shooting, the gunman, Thomas Matthew Crooks, could be seen crawling on a roof as people were heard pointing him out.
Dangerous people, criminals. We have criminals. We have.
And a witness told the BBC,
the police are down there running around on the ground. We're like, hey, man, there's a guy on the roof with a rifle.
But those alerts, if heard by any officers, didn't seem to make it up the chain back to the command center.
Why?
That's a massive communication failure.
Massive.
When I was overseeing sites, we would have Secret Service agents right next to police with police radios. If there's something that's going on, boom, everybody knows instantly. Quite frankly, if the detail had known there was an armed person climbing up on a roof, they would have evacuated the president right away, no questions asked.
Beyond that, the Secret Service said it relied on local law enforcement to secure the building that Crooks climbed. Typically, Secret Service and local police operate together in concentric circles. Closest to the principal, in this case Trump, are teams of highly trained Secret Service agents.
Highly trained.
In the middle perimeter, there's usually...
Highly trained is what she says that you typically have that are closer to the target. That's what she says. I'm going to show you who Trump had around him.
Teams of highly trained Secret Service agents. In the middle perimeter, there's usually a mix of Secret Service and local law enforcement who might cover portions of the motorcade and any pre-event screening. And in the outer perimeter, security largely falls on local law enforcement. In Butler, the building the shooter climbed was technically outside of the rally venue, and the Secret Service didn't sweep it.
It fell through the cracks, which still falls to the Secret Service because it means nobody checked to make sure the plan was in fact implemented correctly.
Oh, we don't know what the plan was. We don't know what the plan was, to be quite frank.
To the Secret Service because it means nobody checked to make sure the plan was in fact implemented correctly.
According to the Butler County Sheriff, right before the shooting, a local officer climbed onto the building and saw Crooks, but dropped to the ground when Crooks aimed his rifle at him. In an interview with ABC News, the Secret Service Director Kimberly Cheadle said local officials were inside the building when Crooks scaled it.
So there's all these memes that are going around, really funny memes. And this one is hilarious because the Secret Service were inside of the building. People put this meme out. Because also Cheadle said that the reason there was no one on the roof where the shooter was is because of the slope. It's got the FBI inside the building, shooter with the ladder. It's so there were some really funny memes and people just making fun of this because it's ridiculous. It's as ridiculous as the single bullet theory. This guy's meme was pretty funny too. Show you this guy.
So, we're going to do a little test here to see if you guys can notice anything in my video. Okay, so pay close attention. We'll be right back.
It's ridiculous. If you believe in the single theory, if the single bullet theory or the magic bullet theory, then you would believe this. You would believe that this guy evaded Secret Service with the ladder, climbed on this building with the rifle, and took these shots at the president. It's ridiculous, people. It's as ridiculous as the magic bullet theory.
Said,
the buck stops with me. I am the director.
Then why aren't you resigning if the buck stops with you? And why hasn't Biden fired her if the buck stops with you? You still have your job. This is ridiculous, people. When you understand the security failures that took place last Saturday, and this woman still has her job, and she hasn't resigned in shame or been fired by Joe Biden, that leads to my suspicions. That leads me to think that this may have been more than just negligence or security failures. It leads me to think that they were trying to take Trump out, to be quite frank. That's what it leads me to believe.
Buck stops with me. I am the director of the Secret Service.
There are also questions about why counter-sniper teams located behind Trump didn't take out the shooter earlier, even though they appeared to be facing in his direction.
Once the shooting started, they had rounds on target almost instantly. So that tells me that that shooter had come to their attention, and they were in the decision loop.
The investigations into what went wrong will also focus heavily on what happened before the event even took place. The Butler rally was announced by the Trump campaign 10 days ahead of time, which experts say gave the Secret Service plenty of time to do site advance planning and potentially even eliminate the line of sight from the building where the gunman was perched to Trump's stage.
In this situation, you actually had an event site that was being built. So they're there to find out what the dimensions are going to be, what the stage is going to look like, where it's going to be located. And then based on that information, they are then looking at potential threats, including areas of high ground, and how to best mitigate those threats with the overall security plan.
Former Secret Service agents say the buildings near Trump's stage in Butler would be a glaring risk and not something that could have been missed by advanced agents.
Glaring. Something that no way you're going to miss that. This is a 150-yard straight shot. They're telling you that 10 days before they're going and they're setting this up. It seems like they're setting it up for the shot. They're setting up a turkey shoot is what it looks like to me.
With the overall security plan.
Former Secret Service agents say the buildings near Trump's stage in Butler would be a glaring risk and not something that could have been missed by advanced agents.
We lost a president in 1963. How did it happen? Man up on a roof with a rifle.
No. That's not how it happened. That's how they tell us it happened, but that's not how it happened. And for you to believe that, then you'd have to believe the magic bullet theory.
Agents.
We lost a president in 1963. How did it happen? Man up on a roof with a rifle. And guess what? The protocols that went into place from 1963 until this day is that we prioritize high places because we understand a man with a rifle, woman with a rifle, whoever with a rifle, if they have any level of expertise,
they're going to go high ground.
The president very quickly.
One thing law enforcement experts say was done correctly, despite widespread criticism on social media, was the evacuation of the former president after he was shot.
The reaction from the shift inside that inner perimeter was very quick.
Even President Trump gave them, these officers, props and said that they acted professionally last night. So I'm not being critical of the entire Secret Service. They don't all have to be in on it. This could be a small group, compartmentalized. You're going to see that there is. Trump praised these officers that did the right thing, rushing them, putting their life on the line. Not saying that all of them were in on it, just to make that clear.
The shift inside that inner perimeter was very quick. And as it's happening, if you listen closely, you can hear the instructions to former President Trump to get down. And that is so that they can cover him effectively.
Okay, so that's something that they did good, but there's a lot that they did bad. And Wall Street Journal doesn't even get, into all of it here in this clip. I mean, there were major security failures if you believe that there were security failures. I want to play this one more clip from the Oliver Stone movie JFK. This is the part where the Kevin Costner character is talking to the Donald Sutherland character. I want you to listen to this part.
I asked myself,
slow down to 10 miles an hour. Why is the limousine going so slow? It was a violation of the most basic. I mean, this was 60 years ago, people. 60 years ago. You're going to tell me that the Secret Service 60 years later is still dropping the ball like this? I don't believe it. And neither should you. And if you believe that, then you may as well believe the single bullet theory and in the Easter Bunny and in Santa Claus and the Tooth Fairy. This is a very famous video from beginning of John F. Kennedy's trip when he lands there in Dallas, leaving the airport as they head to Daley Plaza. I'm going to show you the Secret Service. This is why I say not all the Secret Service agents are in on it. It's compartmentalized. You only need a few of these guys in on it. So this Secret Service officer that you're getting ready to watch here is not in on it. He's doing his job. He's going to try to get on the back of the limousine. Like I told you, he should have been. Secret Service officers, that's the protocol, to get on the back of the limousine to shield the president. This Secret Service officer is trying to do that, and you're going to see he's called back.
Directly in front of the president,
and the wife of the governor of Texas.
This is his job. He's doing his job. He's being called back now. He's like, what? What? They're calling him back.
They're standing on the running board of the follow-up car, and as is their custom, until directly in front of the president.
This is where he should have been. He should have been running along the side of the car the entire time, or riding. They have these little handles where he rides on the car.
They're standing on the running board of the follow-up car, and
no, we're not going to follow protocol. This is a turkey shoot. It's a turkey shoot. We're not going to follow protocol. I want you to listen to Corey Mills here. And Corey Mills is a former military sniper. Take a listen to this interview.
You know, I look at all of these things, and I look at different videos where an assailant will pull a firearm on a law enforcement officer, and the first thing they do is they immediately pull and draw and mitigate the threat and the risk. You know, I ask why the local law enforcement officer did not do so. The other thing is that when you set up an advance team, I keep hearing this about the perimeter elements.
Yeah.
You know, the perimeter is actually established by your threats that are in the area. So if I don't have any threats outside of 100 yards, okay, fine, I can cordon off a certain area. But if I have a building 160 yards perfectly adjacent to the stage, that's an obvious threat, especially with an elevated position that has overwatch. That's a sniper's paradise. And, you know, we talk about Eagle's Nest. You also have, which no one talks about, but the water tower.
So what I'm hearing from you is it's not a failure on the ground.
This guy, he brings up
a failure.
He brings up the water tower
it's a failure
too.
in
So a lot of
advance.
people are talking about the water tower, and I'm not going to play the clips of some of these, but he talks about, I mean, he's a former sniper. Talks about that water tower too being so there's people that are saying that there was a second shooter from the water tower here. So this is the water tower. It's a direct sign, and this is the building where they say that the patsy was. But you know, what he's talking about here is he says the advance team, and the advance team is the same team that Donald Sutherland is talking about here in the JFK movie. He says we would have been there 2 weeks before. We would have scoped the whole thing out. We would have known what buildings were where and where the threats came from. That's what he's talking about when he's talking about the advance team. That's the same thing that they're talking about here in this clip too. When he says they show up and this is the advance team. They set up the stage. They look at all the threats. They're there 2 weeks before the event or 10 days before the event, scoping everything out. That's what he's talking about here when he talks about the advance team. So let's listen again.
That are in the area. So if I don't have any threats outside of 100 yards, okay, fine, I can cordon off a certain area. But if I have a building 160 yards perfectly adjacent to the stage, that's an obvious threat, especially with an elevated position that has overwatch. That's a sniper's paradise. And, you know, we talk about Eagle's Nest. You also have, which no one talks about, but the water tower.
So what I'm hearing from you is it's not a failure on the ground for sure, but 100%. Also a failure in advance?
I think it's a failure in advance. I think it's a failure to have the counter snipers to be able to establish their range fin and their sketch maps.
I also heard we've also learned that local snipers were stationed inside that building. At the time.
I haven't heard that piece of it yet, but that doesn't necessarily make sense unless they were actually in a window which was backed off, because a lot of times you'll get yourself in there. Sometimes you expose your rifle in a way to try and do a force protection or a show of force that actually stops things. Others are actually more tactical where they'll sit back a little bit, but a sniper for the law enforcement is only trained to shoot about 75 yards, unlike your counter sniper teams that are on set. But here's my problem. In having done this for so long, they always say the adage of ignorance is bliss, and I think that's true. I've done thousands of advances. I've done thousands of counter sniper operations with our teams in Iraq and Afghanistan, etc. The amount of negligence, the amount of mistakes that was made here, I have a very difficult time not leaning myself towards this was intentional as opposed to fecklessness.
But wait, talk to me about that. I actually heard you say this right the day after, which I wanted to ask you about. What do you mean intentional?
That Joe Biden tried to kill Donald Trump. That's what he means. He means Joe Biden tried to kill Donald Trump. That's what he means. Or somebody. If we don't know if it was Joe Biden, but we know that it was somebody else besides the patsy that tried to kill Donald Trump. That this was an internal, purposeful hit on Donald Trump. That's what he's talking about.
Intentional failure on the part of...
No, I wouldn't say an intentional failure on the part of, but I got to just, I sit here and I scratch my head. You don't want to be the conspiracist. You don't want to be the person.
I'm telling you, because that's what it's leaning to.
No,
that's what it looks like.
And that's the issue, is that you walk this fine balance of, you're not trying to be a conspiracist, but you look at it and you go, how could this have gone so...
How?
But it's one thing if someone on the street says it. It's not. You, Corn Mills, member of Congress, former sniper, you saying it. I mean,
that even adds more weight to it. Yes, a member of Congress who's a former sniper is telling you that this is inconceivable, that this happened, that all of this negligence happened, that they just allowed this to happen. Yes, it's inconceivable. And the fact that a member of Congress and former sniper is telling you that, it even adds more weight to the fact that this was a conspiracy to kill Donald Trump.
Eyebrows go up. When you say you're walking the line on this, intentional what?
Intentional
seems to me
assassination.
Investigation is necessary at this point within Congress, not just the FBI, not just others. I look back at it and I'm thinking, all right, for an individual, if you looked at the escalations and how they are trying to approach him, let's just say that it was like, okay, first we want to censor and silence you, then we want to indict and imprison you. Now we're attempting to kill you and take you off the stage.
Exactly.
Let's slow
exactly.
down.
No, let's not slow down.
From you. I don't want to jump ahead of things, but I'm also hearing you jumping ahead of things.
Well, actually, I'm just looking at all the different possible capabilities. One of the things as a military member...
You can't handle the truth.
As a person who's run in the special operations communities before, one of the people who's actually done this is that you look at all potential analysis, right?
Exactly.
Donald Trump and his team have said, do not...
No, I agree.
Dial it back. Do not blame this on Joe Biden.
Oh, well, actually, I didn't say Joe Biden, to be completely
Who's the
clear.
they, then? Let's be very specific.
Well, that's what the investigation has to do.
The Secret Service, for one.
Had made the mistakes, or was there something to it? Was there other types of things that we need to be analyzing or looking at and providing analysis? My point is that when something's so significant, you're talking about something that hasn't happened in decades, right?
I totally...
But my point is this. From a perspective of someone who's actually conducted these are not difficult advances.
Exactly.
This is not like I'm putting together a stage placement and a type
We're
shot.
60 years after the Kennedy assassination, and you still think that we're having security failures like what happened last Saturday? You believe that? You may as well believe in the magic bullet. You may as well believe in the Tooth Fairy, Santa Claus, the Easter Bunny. What's wrong with you?
This is about looking at your surroundings. What is my green, yellow, and red route, which is your routes out in case? What is my actual elements that I need to be looking at as far as mitigating threats or risks or increased levels? Where's my range fan for the sniper that says, okay, here's my 100, my 200, my sketch. Here's an area where someone could shoot. Because here's my thing.
So you're
Let's
saying,
just say it's a Royce element.
You are saying this is so basic that how big the screw up was, that's what's leading your brain down this road?
Absolutely.
Right, in a way. But because here's
absolutely.
Tom Emmer was just on with me, and he said very specifically to me, I wrote it down, he said very clearly, it is too early to be talking about who is at fault and who is responsible.
That's why an investigation is necessary.
Yeah. Deep investigation.
Is it not dangerous? Is it not reckless to even be throwing around the word intentionally?
So to question things as we do an investigation is recklessness, because at that point, then should we never question anything? My point is this.
The man came centimeters, lady, from losing his life. He should be dead right now. Are you crazy? You don't think that we're going to be speculating and asking questions? And what are you talking about? And these people are hacks. It's ridiculous. Absolutely, we're going to be asking questions and speculating. We want to know right away. And I'm going to show you. So Kimberly Cheadle, the director of U.S. Secret Service, still hasn't resigned. With these blatant security failures, she hasn't resigned and hasn't been fired either. I think that's the most astonishing thing out of all of this. This CNN talking head that is losing her mind because he's saying that we have to look at the fact that this was done on purpose because these are major security failures. You know what would help me to not believe that Joe Biden was involved? If he'd fire this woman. That would add a lot of weight to the fact that Joe Biden is not involved in this and not trying to cover his butt and to not believe that there was something greater than a lone patsy on a building taking a shot at Trump, it would go a long way for Joe Biden to fire this woman. But he hasn't fired her. I mean, I think that in the debate, Trump called out Joe Biden for not firing anyone. He's like, what do you have to do to get fired in the Joe Biden administration? This woman, her negligence at a minimum, almost got a leading presidential candidate killed. She's not fired. She hasn't resigned either. Now, she was part of Dick Cheney's security detail during 9/11. Supposedly, she's very close with the Cheney family. I want you to listen to her here talk about 9/11 and how she protected Dick Cheney during 9/11. Take a listen.
Were you with Vice President Cheney on 9/11? I was. I was working at the White House with the Vice President. I was on Vice President Cheney's detail on 9/11, and much like all Americans, it has left an indelible mark on me, and I still think back to moments during that day, and it's really surreal to think about.
So she's super close with the Cheney family, is what we're told. Just giving you information. Now, this came out today. Breaking: Senator Josh Hawley says whistleblowers have come forward, alleges that Biden's DHS, Department of Homeland Security, assigned unprepared, inexperienced personnel to Trump who weren't even Secret Service. So some of these people who were assigned to Trump's detail last Saturday were not even members of the Secret Service, that these were agents that were not the A-team. They were not the best prepared agents. And Dan Bongino, who is a former Secret Service agent, says that he had sources that said that the A-team, the trained and experienced and prepared Secret Service members that were normally on Trump's detail were moved to Jill Biden's detail. The wife of Joe Biden's moved to Jill Biden's detail at the last minute. So this would fit into what these whistleblowers are supposedly telling Josh Hawley, would fit into with what Dan Bongino, who was former Secret Service, is getting from his sources, that the experience and prepared and the A-team was moved from Trump's detail to Jill Biden's detail. And then these whistleblowers are telling Hawley that DHS assigned unprepared, inexperienced personnel. Look at this video, which was going viral. I mean, look at this detail, people. I mean, this looks like a Saturday Night Live skit, is what people were saying. Look at Trump's security detail that he had that day. Look at this. I'm not talking about these guys in the back. I'm talking about these women right here. Look at this. I mean, come on, people. Come on. Now, Dr. Martinson here has put together this video where he is using audio tracks. And I just want you to listen to a little bit of his breakdown here. Now, he is claiming that he has proved that there was a second shooter by just analyzing the audio of the shots. Chris Martinson, PhD. I want you to listen to a little bit of this clip.
You're going to hear first in this tape, you're going to hear 3 very clearly distinct cracked thumps. And then things get a little confusing, right? It gets a little fast. And so how do
I want to stop this, hold on. Because last night, even Trump says in his speech that he gave at the RNC that the first shot hits him in the ear. He puts his hand up and then he goes to the ground. And then he says, even in the speech last night, and you're going to hear that in this clip, that after that, you start hearing multiple bullets flying around. There's multiple bullets, not just, listen to this, people.
Somebody, whoever put this video together, did the counting. Thank you for that. However, I think there's some room for interpretation here as well about that. So without any further ado, this is that
Take
audio
a look at what happened.
That's 3 shots. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Wait. Hang on. We're going to hear one more.
9. There's 9 shots.
There it was. There's that last one. Okay, one more time.
Take a look at what happened.
Listen to this. Can you hear that?
That's 4.
That's 1, 2, 3. Okay. And then
shots flying everywhere. That's what Trump said last night.
Because we have echoes. We've got them overstacking each other. So there's 2 supersonic cracks that come in, and later the thumps of the gun come in, the crack thumps. So it gets a little tricky to unravel. So let's do that and go there. Okay. First up, I want a big shout out to Mike Adams at Health Ranger. He was out with this within minutes for those first 3 shots. Clued me in to the idea that we really did need to take a look at the other one. So way to go, Mike. Thank you for picking that up and doing that. All right. This is the audio file. I pulled it into a program called Audacity, right, off of that video. And I find on here 9 separate shots, okay?
9
so
shots.
I find 3, then a grouping of 5, and then one last one out there. Number 9, I think, this is the sniper shot that would have, I think, looks like it took out Crooks just above the left eyebrow. If you want to go look at those, or, the gross pictures, right? Obviously, he's all bloody and dead. They have that close-up picture of his face, right? And you can actually see a hole right about here over the left eyebrow.
So that's the 9th shot. That's the fatal shot. That's the fatal shot on Crooks. That's the 9th shot. So they're telling you that this guy got off 8 shots. That Crooks got off 8 shots before, and then they already knew who he was. They'd been watching him. He gets off 8 shots, and then they finally get him with the 9th way over here. Look, this is the 9th shot right here. And these are the groupings. Group 3, 1, 2, 3, and then these 5 grouped together. That's what he's telling you.
And that last one. I'm not going to worry about the last one as much, but we're going to have to look at these first sets very, very carefully here. So here is video number 1. To orient ourselves, I count off of this video 15.8 seconds from the very first to the very last shot. So the AP article that said, Crooks took a shot and was neutralized by snipers within seconds, what they meant was 15.8 seconds.
15 seconds. Count that out, people. Count out 15 seconds. That's how long it took them to take him out. People, come on. You know how gullible you have to be?
Was neutralized by snipers within seconds. What they meant was 15.8 seconds, unless I have this story wrong. Next, we're going to look at these first 3 shots here so you understand how we can analyze the rest of them. And so here's the shot. This is the sonic crack. So that's the bullet is the blue arrows. And then the report is going to be the black arrows. So that's the crack, thump, crack, thump, crack, thump. And of course, it was the first bullet that nicked Trump's ear. And again, let me get my thing here. Here's what it sounds like. Okay, so now I've just isolated the sound. There it is. Okay, whoops, sorry. One last time just to make sure we're hearing this right. There's 0.22 seconds between the crack and the thump, and knowing a little bit about the type of the bullet that was used and the caliber of it and the air conditions and things like that, you can estimate the distance of the shooter and how far away the shooter was. So that 0.22 second gap between the crack and the thump is very important because it helps us identify that a gun is being shot from that distance. If there were any other lengths, like if we saw a crack thump, we would clearly see that that was 2 separate weapons because assuming the first and the last crack thumps were the same distance apart. So if there's any variation between the crack and the thump, that's when you say, oh, that's a different weapon. So that's one way. The other way is just the tenor, just the sound of the weapon. Does it sound different? Now, this is interesting. This woman here had put up a video on TikTok. I really wish we could get the unaltered, I call it unmolested. I don't need all the words put on there. And it's not a consistent video, so there's edits in there. So I can't, if it ran from beginning to end, we could tell more, but I'm suspecting that we can tell a lot from it. So we're going to bring it up here because this is one of the videos, only videos that I know about that shows, I think, the first stand victim getting shot. So here we go.
Side of Trump. I'm over on the far right or far left of Trump. These are the same bleachers. Watch the top left. These are the same exact bleachers. These are to the left of Trump.
Oh, wow.
They came, those shots.
Okay.
Wow. Do you see
what
that?
I've done here is, so I just want us to look at, I just pulled out that one tiny section. You can clearly see a bullet careening off of this.
Yeah, absolutely can.
It does it with enough force to atomize and vaporize. And so I think this is an important clue. We'll see. So,
all right, I don't have to. I can't play all of this video. I'll put this in the show notes. If you go to my website, according2Sam.com, go to podcast. I put show notes for every podcast there under the podcast section of my website. I'll put this video there so you can view the whole video. I'm almost done. I just want to play a little bit, but he basically is using the sound of this weapon. The first group of sounds comes from the Patsy, the location of the Patsy, I guess. But he proves with the sound of the weapon that there had to be another shooter, that there was another gun coming from someplace else. And then you hear the ninth shot, the final shot that takes out the Patsy crooks. So Congressman Mills is not the only person who is speculating that there's something nefarious going on. Also, members of the Senate are speculating that something nefarious is going on. And Kimberly Cheadle was at the RNC there in Milwaukee this past week, and she was confronted by Republican senators there at the RNC. I just want you to watch a little bit of this.
Questions, and until we run out of questions, every one of us had questions that we wanted to ask. We felt we didn't get any of the responses that were necessary from you. Very disappointing in your leadership. I have called for your resignation, and I'd rather you resign.
So you can't really hear
right now
what he is saying, but then they're confronting her pretty strongly, and then she starts to take off, and then the senators, these Republican senators, follow her, and they keep confronting her here at the RNC. You're supposed to protect the President of the United States. These are senators yelling at her.
This is exactly what we were doing today.
This was an assassination attempt. You owe nothing. Answers. You owe President Trump answers.
Go.
Look, they're following her. These are members of the Senate following her. That's crazy. That's crazy. Listen to what they say here. Because then she goes into this room and then hides after they follow her.
I wish Donald Trump would have had this good of a security. The Secret Service is running away from the United States Senate, refuses to answer questions for the American people about the threat on the life of Donald Trump and what they knew, when they knew it, and why they ignored it.
She can run, she cannot hide. We will get some answers.
Wow. These are members of the Senate, people. So, Mrs. Kimberly Cheadle is set to testify on Monday. I told you, to the House Oversight Committee. I'm sure the Senate will be calling her as well. We're just at the beginning of this, people. We're just at the beginning of this, but this stinks. This smells like 2 week bad fish that's been sitting out on your counter. It's got flies. It stinks. It's smelly. They tried to kill Donald Trump, and we need answers. Thank you guys for listening, and I will be back on Monday. Again, Cheadle is set to testify on Monday. We'll see if I'm able to cover any of that in next week's podcast. But I'll be here, and I hope you're here with me. Thank you so much.